Good morning from Bear Country, California. I'm Dr. Caroline Heldman, and here are your headlines for the second week of August 2021. First up, earlier this week, Cuomo, the governor of New York, announced his resignation after Attorney General Tish James found support for 11 allegations of sexual misconduct that range from sexual harassment to groping and sexual battery, which are criminal charges. There are at least 5 prosecutors who are looking at further allegations in their districts. So Cuomo is not out of the woods, even though he stepped down. It was a bit surprising that he stepped down so early. We knew for sure he was going to be removed from the democratically controlled state legislature, but the fact that he decided to not drag this out or try to cut some sweetheart deal and instead just resigned was uncharacteristic of him. But at the end of the day, when you have a sitting president, Joe Biden, who's a longtime ally, calling for you to step down, I guess that's it, right? You hear the music, it's playing you out, you need to go. Cuomo, on his way out, did not apologize for his behavior. Instead, he blamed his behavior on the women misinterpreting it and a shifting culture. This is why I call BS on that. First off, we have had sexual harassment laws on the books since the late 70s. As an attorney, Cuomo is well aware of these laws. As a political leader who signs some of these laws into effect, he is well aware of what the standards are in the workplace, that what flies in your private life does not fly in the workplace. You have to bring your best self. Also, he was doing much of this behavior while the Me Too movement was at its peak. In fact, 2 summers ago, he signed sweeping new protections for women in the workplace in New York. And then the very next day, he groped a female state trooper, according to the Attorney General's report. So no, there is no excuse for this. And blaming the women whom you sexually harassed and sexually battered is, just, it's poor taste, but it also shows that these powerful men think that they can just continue to spin and not be held accountable. But this is everything the Me Too movement has been calling for. 1, an investigation, and 2, accountability if there's evidence of wrongdoing. This is what the movement is all about. Second big headline, the Senate approved Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, and now it goes to the House where it is expected to pass, but will face more opposition from Democrats. So how did he do this? How did Biden do what Clinton tried to do, what Obama tried to do, what Trump tried to do, pass major infrastructure reform? How did he get it through with such a divided Senate? Well, he has many years in the Senate, right? This is a man who has been in the Senate for 3 decades, 36 years. He certainly used that prowess. But he also led with the centrists. He put Sinema and Manchin at the table with centrist Republicans to make this happen. Rob Porter, who's leaving Congress, maybe has less to lose in getting behind this. But at the end of the day, 19 Republicans getting behind this bill is significant. I think that the bipartisanship here and Mitch McConnell signing onto this bill is likely a lesson that they learned from not supporting the COVID relief package that Biden passed. The COVID relief package from earlier this year, wildly popular with the American public, had an instant energizing effect on the economy. We know the latest jobs report finds that from last Friday, finds that we added nearly 1 million jobs in July, that the unemployment rate is down to 5.4%. Of course, it's higher for Black Americans, for Latinx Americans. But at the end of the day, wildly popular bill, 0 Republicans got on board, and then they all tried to take credit for it. So I think in this case, it's kind of a no-brainer. They're taking credit for it, and they're hopping on because they know, there's no opposition to an infrastructure bill. Of course, I wouldn't anticipate that Biden will have similar success with the George Floyd Policing Act, H.R. 1, the Voting Rights Protection Act, gun control legislation, environmental legislation, or obviously, as we've seen, investigating the violent insurrection of January 6th. All of those are highly partisan issues, so it's not some new day for bipartisanship in Washington, D.C. But on this one particular bill, Joe Biden has a major win now in his report card. Third big story, Testimony before the House Oversight Committee and documents that have been released shows just how close we came to a coup overthrow of the government and the former president's role in that. And emails show that senior Department of Justice officials were caught between a rock and a hard place. The pressure from the president to rig the election. In one call with Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue, Trump said, "Just say the election was corrupt and leave it to me and the Republican congressmen." So he just wanted the DOJ to frame it, and then they would do the full court press through the courts and through their manipulation of social and other forms of media. Trump also told him that, quote, "the Georgia legislature is on our side." And they tried to engage the Department of Justice in putting pressure on state governments, including Georgia, to overturn a free and fair election by tampering with the Electoral College rules, by sitting different electors on January 6th. In fact, in early January 2021, one top Justice Department official in Georgia was so concerned that he abruptly resigned after Trump officials put pressure on the state to rig the election. So why isn't anything happening at the federal level? We will probably see the grand jury bringing some criminal charges in the state of Georgia for election tampering against Trump or his affiliates. We will probably see something similar in New York in terms of his business relations, but we're not going to see something from the Department of Justice. Why? Merrick Garland, our new Attorney General, has gotten in and essentially said, nope, we're going to leave the past in the past. We're not going to relitigate any of this. His critics, of course, are saying, wait, in order to move on, in order to heal the country and move on, you actually need to know what happened. You need a truth and reconciliation to happen. Merrick Garland is taking a very different approach. In fact, you see this with everything. His continued representation of Donald Trump in the defamation case filed by E. Jean Carroll. He dismissed a lawsuit over Trump's violent clearing of Lafayette Square. He has refused to make Barr's deliberations over the Mueller report public. So the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, has taken a number of stances that essentially protect or continue the policies of the Trump administration in an effort to move on from the egregious erosion of basic norms and decency at the Department of Justice under Donald Trump. I am torn about this. I, of course, want the truth to come out. At this point in time, I think it would hurt Biden and the Democrats politically if that happened. Of course, we want to know what happened. And of course, we want those who engaged in these actions to be held accountable. But at what cost in terms of further dividing the country? That is the big question that Merrick Garland is facing. And he is very clearly siding on not doing the investigations that he easily could do. Also big in the news today, the U.S. Census Bureau is releasing its long-awaited district-level results. And this will set off what is expected to be a very bruising and litigious season to determine how new districts will be drawn. So gerrymandering is the process of drawing districts in very partisan ways in order to, for example, to dilute the African-American vote in your state. So, for example, instead of drawing a district that makes sense around an urban area that may have a high number of Black voters, you instead you draw the district so that it allocates a small number of Black voters in each district, thereby diluting it. So that would be an example of using partisan gerrymandering in a way that ends up being racist. The Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013 with the Shelby case, which means that there isn't preclearance, meaning that there isn't federal oversight. There's no requirement that states with a history of engaging in racism against voters have to get their gerrymandered districts approved by the federal government or go through preclearance. That is gone. So there is no federal oversight now, essentially, for this process. And it looks like Republicans are heavily advantaged in terms of redrawing these districts, right? So they control redistricting in 20 states. Democrats control redistricting in 10 states. 4 states have divided government, and the remaining states have nonpartisan or bipartisan commissions. That's what we need to move to if we want to protect our democracy. Because what ends up happening is that in a nation of 330 million people, you have a vast overrepresentation of Republicans in the US House of Representatives, simply because they control the state legislatures, which draw upon census data to redistrict, and they draw these districts lopsided, which gives them more seats and more representation in Congress. So we have a radical distortion of representation in the US House of Representatives. Another big headline this week, Texas hospitals are overrun with COVID-19 cases. Texas is averaging about 12,400 new cases a day. That is nearly double the number of cases that we saw just 2 weeks ago. The Delta variant is ravaging the state. 10,000 coronavirus patients have been admitted to hospitals in the state. 53 intensive care units are at maximum capacity. Houston is so overwhelmed that every hospital there has tents erected outside the hospital. And Governor Greg Abbott is actually calling on health officials, pleading with health care officials from other states to come and help their state, but he refuses to promote a mask mandate, and in fact has said that local jurisdictions cannot pass mask mandates. Thankfully, a lot of local jurisdictions are pushing back. The school districts in Austin, Fort Worth, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio are instituting mask mandates in school in violation of Mr. Abbott's ban for schools. He's literally said that you can't institute a mask mandate in schools in order to keep kids safe. Thankfully, 2 rulings just came down. The first in Bexar County, I'm sure I'm butchering that, I don't know Texas well enough, but that includes San Antonio. Masks can now be required in school and other public buildings as local officials wanted. And the second ruling is in Dallas County. So it appears that the Texas judiciary is siding with local jurisdictions and trying to protect people by instituting basic common sense mask mandates in a state that is being overrun by COVID. Our last headline is that Sunni Wells, a Cosby survivor, passed away a couple of nights ago. Sunni was 72 years old. She first met Bill Cosby when she was a teenager, and he drugged and raped her twice. And this caused lifelong trauma for Sunni. She was an amazing performer, jazz singer, also just a wonderful human being who enjoyed all the little things in life. I met her before the Cosby trials, but spent a great deal of time with her at the second trial. And she was traumatized by being in the presence of Bill Cosby and had a dissociative moment. And all of the Cosby survivors and advocates like myself were in a room with her, just supporting her and helping to remind her that she wasn't alone. And she was able to continue to watch the proceedings remotely without being terribly triggered. Sunni lived on the other side of LA, just a beautiful, amazing human being, a loving person, and she will be greatly missed. As you head out into the world, please be gentle with yourself, be kind to others, and rock on.